Get your hands where I can see them, now! The command slices through the humid Tampa afternoon like a blade through silk. Marissa Kane freezes mid-step, her car keys dangling from her right hand, a shopping bag from Williams-Sonoma weighing down her left. The parking lot of West Shore Plaza stretches wide and nearly empty at 2:14 p.m. on this sweltering Saturday, heat shimmering off the asphalt in waves that distort the patrol car's flashing lights behind her Honda Accord. She doesn't turn around. Not yet. Instead, she takes a measured breath, counting exactly 3 seconds on the inhale, 3 on the exhale, a technique she's perfected over years of managing situations far more complex than this one appears to be. The officer's boots scrape against the pavement, growing closer. Heavy steps, deliberate, the kind that want you to know they're coming. I said hands where I can see them. Are you deaf? Officer Kyle Brenner stands 6 feet 3 inches and 240 pounds of muscle gone slightly soft around the middle. His uniform stretched tight across shoulders, built for intimidation rather than athletics. His hand rests on his service weapon, not gripping it, but making sure she sees the gesture, the kind of move that says I'm in control here without saying it out loud. His partner, a younger Asian officer whose nameplate reads Huang, maintains position by their cruiser, hand near his radio. Marissa raises both hands slowly, keys catching the sunlight. Her movements are deliberate, calculated to appear compliant while maintaining dignity. The shopping bag crinkles as she lifts it. Is there a problem, officer? Her voice carries the kind of calm that comes from practice, not nature. Neutral, professional. The voice of someone documenting everything even as it happens. Don't play dumb with me. Brenner steps closer, close enough that she can smell the coffee on his breath, see the sweat beating at his temple despite the October weather. We got a call about someone suspicious hanging around the parking lot. You match the description. The description. Marissa doesn't need to ask what that description was. Black woman, late 30s, professional attire that somehow still makes her suspicious in this upscale shopping district. She's heard it before, though usually not quite this aggressively. Not usually with backup already in position. I'm a customer here. She keeps her voice level, resisting the urge to point out the obvious. The shopping bag, the car keys, the receipt sticking out of her purse. I just finished shopping. Yeah? Where's your receipt then? She starts to lower her left hand toward her purse, but Brenner's sharp intake of breath stops her. Did I say you could move? The parking lot feels suddenly smaller, the empty spaces around them offering no witnesses except for a few shoppers loading groceries 50 yards away, too far to hear the exchange, but close enough to see the lights. One woman holds up her phone, filming or calling someone. Marissa can't tell. Officer Huang approaches now. Younger and leaner than Brenner, his movements precise where his partners are aggressive. He pulls out a notepad, pen clicking. Ma'am, we need to see some identification. This shopping center has had multiple incidents of vehicle break-ins recently. The good cop routine. Marissa recognizes it, appreciates the attempt at de-escalation, even as she notes how Huang positions himself to cut off her path to her car. They've done this before. The coordination is too smooth to be improvised. My identification is in my purse. May I retrieve it? Slowly, Brenner says, and keep that other hand where I can see it. She lowers her hand in increments, reaching into her purse with 2 fingers to pull out her wallet. As she does, she notices the parking sign directly in front of her car, its text clear and unambiguous. Customer parking only. Violators will be towed at owner's expense. Florida Statute 810-09. Officers, I'd like to point out that sign. She nods toward it, hands still visible. Florida Statute 810.09, the trespassing statute, requires that someone be warned they're trespassing and given opportunity to leave before any enforcement action. I'm parked legally in a customer spot, I have receipts from 3 stores, and no one has asked me to leave. Brenner's jaw tightens. People who know their rights are always more difficult to handle, and something about the way she cited the statute, not frantically, not defensively, but matter-of-factly, shifts something in his approach. You a lawyer or something? No, I just read the signs I park in front of. Huang writes something in his notepad, and Marissa catches a glimpse of neat handwriting. Subject confrontational, citing statutes, confrontational, for reading a parking sign. Look, we can do this easy, or we can do this hard, Brenner says, moving closer still. She can see the pores on his nose, the small scar above his left eyebrow. You're being detained for suspicious activity. That means you provide ID when asked. I'm happy to provide my identification. I'm simply clarifying that I'm being detained, not arrested, and that the reasonable suspicion you're claiming needs to be based on specific, articulable facts beyond my presence in a parking lot where I've been shopping. She pulls out her driver's license, holding it between two fingers. Brenner snatches it harder than necessary, the plastic bending slightly in his grip. He examines it like he's looking for evidence of forgery, turning it over twice before handing it to Huang. Marissa Kane, Huang reads aloud, typing into the mobile data terminal mounted in their patrol car. Tampa address, no warrants, valid registration on the Honda. Run it again, Brenner says. I just did. Run it again. The tension between the two officers is subtle but present. Huang's fingers pause over the keyboard before he complies, re-entering the same information they both know will return the same results. It's a power play, Brenner asserting dominance not just over Marissa, but over his younger partner. While they wait, Marissa mentally catalogs everything. The time, 2:23 p.m. The position of their vehicles, the patrol car angled to block her exit route, though she could theoretically reverse and leave through the other end of the row. The fact that Brenner's body camera appears to be off, its recording indicator dark, the security camera mounted on the light pole 30 feet away, its angle capturing the entire scene. Same results, Huang announces. No warrants, no violations. What about the vehicle? I told you, registration is valid. Insurance is current. No tickets, no liens. Brenner turns back to Marissa, her license still in his hand. He's not ready to let this go. Something about her, maybe the calm, maybe the knowledge of the law, maybe just the fact that she's not reacting the way he expected, has gotten under his skin. What stores did you shop at? Williams-Sonoma, Pottery Barn, and Nordstrom Rack. Expensive stores. It's not a question, and the implication hangs heavy in the air. How can you afford to shop here? She doesn't take the bait. I have the receipts if you'd like to see them. Yeah, I would. She reaches into her purse again, slowly, pulling out the receipts. 3 of them, timestamps clear, 1:45, 2:03, and 2:12 p.m., less than 30 minutes ago for the most recent one. She holds them out, but Brenner doesn't take them. Instead, he nods to Huang. Document those. Huang photographs each receipt with his phone, the shutter sound sharp in the quiet parking lot. As he does, a second patrol car pulls into the lot, no lights or sirens but moving with purpose. It stops perpendicular to Marissa's Honda, blocking any possibility of her leaving. Like this video, if you've ever experienced unfair treatment, your support helps expose these injustices. The new arrivals are Sergeant Patricia Voss and Detective Rosa Mendez. Voss emerges first, mid-40s with steel-gray hair pulled back in a bun so tight it seems to stretch her features. 4 chevrons on her sleeve, a supervisor who's climbed the ranks and guards her position fiercely. Mendez follows, younger, but with the kind of confidence that comes from connections rather than experience. What do we have here, Brenner? Suspicious person call. Subject was loitering in the parking lot. I was shopping, Marissa interjects calmly. I have receipts. Voss looks at her with the kind of assessment that catalogs everything. The designer purse that's 2 seasons old but well-maintained. The comfortable flats that suggest someone who spends time on her feet. The way she stands with her weight evenly distributed, ready to move but not tense to run. Ma'am, when officers respond to a call, it's best to cooperate fully. I am cooperating. I provided identification and proof that I'm a customer. Your tone suggests otherwise. Tone. The word lands like a small stone in still water, ripples spreading. Marissa has heard this before too, how her calm is interpreted as defiance, her knowledge as aggression, her very presence as a threat to be managed. I apologize if my tone seems inappropriate. I'm simply trying to understand why 4 officers are needed for a parking lot inquiry. Are you counting? This from Mendez, who's been quietly observing, her detective's shield catching the light. Interesting thing to notice. It's hard not to notice when exit routes are being systematically blocked. The words come out before Marissa can stop them. Too specific, too tactical. She sees the shift in their expressions, the sharpening of interest. Huang stops writing mid-sentence. Exit routes? Brenner steps forward again. You planning on running? No, I'm observing that my vehicle is boxed in despite no crime being committed. We decide if a crime's been committed, not you. Voss raises a hand slightly, a gesture that stops Brenner from moving closer. The hierarchy asserts itself, Sergeant controlling the scene, keeping her aggressive officer in check while maintaining the pressure. Miss Kane, is it? Have you had previous encounters with law enforcement? Not like this. What does that mean? It means I've never been detained for shopping while black before. The words hang in the air like a challenge. Mendez actually smirks, as if Marissa has played directly into their hands. So you're making this about race? Brenner's voice carries satisfaction now. You know what? I think we need to check your vehicle. Make sure those receipts match the merchandise. You need probable cause to search my vehicle. Or consent, which you'll give if you have nothing to hide. The trap is elegant in its simplicity. Refuse and appear guilty. Consent and let them paw through her belongings, looking for anything. A prescription bottle with someone else's name, a pocket knife that might violate some ordinance, anything that transforms this from harassment into an arrest. I don't consent to a search. Then we wait for a K9 unit. Voss pulls out her radio. Dispatch, this is Sergeant Voss. Request K9 to West Shore Plaza. Possible narcotics detection needed. Marissa knows this game too. The dog that alerts on command. The handler who interprets every twitch as a positive indication. But she also knows something else. The timestamp on this encounter is now approaching 15 minutes. Every second is being recorded by the plaza's security system, even if the officer's body cameras remain conspicuously dark. While we wait, Huang says, trying again for reasonable, maybe you could tell us what brings you to this particular shopping center? It's a bit far from your address. Marissa looks at him steadily. It's 4 miles from my home. Are there distance restrictions on shopping I'm not aware of? Just seems like there are closer options. I like Williams-Sonoma. They have a particular type of cookbook stand I've been looking for. Cookbook stand. Brenner says it like it's the most ridiculous thing he's ever heard. You drove 4 miles for a cookbook stand. Among other things, yes. A small crowd has gathered now, shoppers pretending to load cars while obviously watching. Several phones are out, recording from a distance. Voss notices and speaks into her radio again. Dispatch, be advised we have multiple bystanders. Scene is secure but request an additional unit for crowd control. Crowd control. For perhaps 8 people standing 50 feet away. The escalation is deliberate, theatrical. Look how dangerous this black woman in her Williams-Sonoma bag must be. We need 6 officers now. The K9 unit arrives 11 minutes later, a German shepherd named Rex, whose handler, Officer Tommy Briggs, looks barely old enough to buy beer. The dog is excited, pulling at the leash, but it's the excitement of an animal happy to be out of the car, not one detecting anything specific. Walk him around the vehicle, Voss instructs. Briggs complies, leading Rex in a slow circle around Marissa's Honda. The dog sniffs with professional disinterest, more focused on a discarded fast food wrapper near the front tire than anything about the car itself. On the second pass, Briggs makes a subtle gesture with his hand, and Rex sits. That's an alert, Briggs announces. That's training, Marissa says quietly, but loud enough for the cameras to pick up if anyone reviews the footage later. What was that? Brenner's aggressive again, chest puffing. I said that's interesting. The dog didn't display any of the typical alert behaviors. No pawing, no sustained focus, no change in breathing pattern. He simply sat on command. You an expert on police dogs now too? No, just observant. Voss steps between them. Based on the K9 alert, we now have probable cause to search your vehicle. You can open it voluntarily, or we can impound it and search it at the station. The choice that isn't a choice. Marissa pulls out her keys, clicking the unlock button. The Honda chirps twice, lights flashing. She steps back, hands visible, as Brenner and Huang begin their search. They're thorough, but sloppy, more interested in making a mess than actually finding anything. The gym bag in her trunk gets dumped out. Workout clothes, sneakers, a water bottle. The reusable grocery bags get turned inside out. The emergency kit gets dismantled. Flares and jumper cables spread across the trunk like evidence. Huang goes through her glove compartment, pulling out registration papers, insurance cards, a small notebook. He flips through the notebook, pausing at pages covered in neat handwriting. What's this? Personal notes. About what? Various things. Grocery lists, reminders, observations. He photographs several pages before Brenner calls him over to look at something in the back seat. It's nothing. A phone charger. But they make a production of examining it. Meanwhile, Mendez has been on her phone texting rapidly. She shows something to Voss, whose expression shifts to what might be concern. Brenner, Huang, wrap it up. But Sarge, I said wrap it up. They don't find anything because there's nothing to find. Marissa keeps her car meticulously clean, carries nothing that could be misconstrued, lives her life with the kind of careful precision that comes from always being watched, always being judged. As they repack her belongings, carelessly, the gym clothes going in the grocery bags, the emergency supplies loose in the trunk, Marissa notices something. There's a pattern to how they're positioned, how they've orchestrated this entire encounter. Voss staying back, observing, directing. Brenner as the aggressor, the bad cop pushing boundaries. Huang documenting everything, creating a paper trail that will justify their actions. Mendez is backup, ready to corroborate whatever story they tell. They've done this before, many times. "Are we finished?" Marissa asks when they slam her trunk shut. "Not quite." Voss pulls out a citation pad. "I'm writing you a warning for obstruction." "Obstruction of what?" "Of a legal investigation. Your argumentative behavior delayed our officers in their duties. I exercise my constitutional rights, which you're free to do, and I'm free to document when that exercise impedes law enforcement activities. The citation is meaningless. A warning carries no legal weight, requires no court appearance, exists solely to create a record. Subject was previously warned for obstruction. The next time, that warning becomes justification for escalation." Voss tears off the citation, holding it out. When Marissa reaches for it, Voss lets it go a second too early, the paper fluttering to the ground. Marissa has to bend to pick it up, a small humiliation that Brenner watches with satisfaction. "Drive safely, Ms. Kane," Voss says, "and maybe consider shopping closer to home next time." They return to their vehicles in formation, Voss and Mendez first, then Brenner and Huang. But they don't leave. Instead, they sit in their patrol cars, engines running, watching, waiting. Marissa gets into her Honda, hands trembling slightly now that she's out of their direct view. She sits for a moment, breathing steadily, then starts the engine. She reverses slowly, carefully, aware they're looking for any excuse. A rolling stop, a failure to signal, a speed 2 miles over the limit. The patrol cars follow her out of the parking lot, a convoy of intimidation. At the first traffic light, Brenner pulls alongside her, his window down. He doesn't say anything, just stares. The light seems to take forever to change. They follow for 3 blocks before peeling off one by one. Voss first, turning into a gas station. Then Mendez, pulling a U-turn. Brenner and Huang stay the longest, right on her bumper for another mile, before finally backing off as she approaches the interstate on-ramp. Subscribe if you believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. We're building a community for justice. Only when she's safely on I-275, 3 exits from home, does Marissa allow herself to process what just happened. Not the harassment itself. She's experienced various forms of that before. But the coordination, the system they clearly have in place, the practiced way they escalated and then pulled back just before crossing lines that would create real liability. She pulls into her driveway at 3:17 p.m., a full hour after the encounter began. Her townhouse in Hyde Park is modest but neat, the lawn maintained by the HOA, the single-car garage holding boxes she still hasn't unpacked from her last move. She goes inside, sets her bags on the counter, and opens her laptop. The first thing she does is write down everything while it's fresh. Times, badge numbers, exact words as close as she can remember them. She's got Brenner's badge number, 4782. Huang is 2341. She didn't catch Voss's or Mendez's, but she has their names, and that's enough to find the rest. Then she checks the West Shore Plaza website, looking for their security office number. The plaza has cameras throughout the parking lot. That footage will be crucial, especially since the officers kept their body cameras off. Florida law requires departments to retain body camera footage for 90 days, but only if the cameras were actually recording. She makes a cup of tea, chamomile, something calming, and sits at her kitchen table. Outside her window, normal Saturday life continues. A neighbor walks their dog. Kids ride bikes on the sidewalk. The world hasn't stopped because Marissa Kane was harassed in a parking lot. But something nags at her. The way Mendez was texting, the look on Voss's face when she saw whatever was on that phone. They found something. Or thought they did. Not in her car, but about her. She opens her laptop again, this time pulling up the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office website. There's a section for commendations and complaints, a formal process that requires documentation, evidence, witnesses. She's got the documentation. The plaza cameras are evidence. The bystanders who filmed are witnesses. Yet she hesitates. Filing a complaint puts a target on her back. These officers know where she lives now, know her car, her patterns. They can make her life difficult in 100 small ways that never quite rise to actionable harassment. Her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Nice Honda. Be a shame if something happened to it. No threats, technically. Nothing actionable. Just enough to let her know they have her number, they're thinking about her, they want her afraid. She screenshots the message, adds it to her documentation, then she does something she's been avoiding for the past 3 years. She opens her desk drawer and pulls out an identification card she rarely carries, one that would have changed the entire dynamic of that encounter if she'd shown it. The badge reads, Department of Homeland Security. Beneath it, her title, Regional Director, Protective Security Coordination Division. She's spent 15 years in federal service, the last 5 in positions that require her to assess threats, coordinate multi-agency responses, oversee security protocols for federal facilities across 3 states. She's trained in counter-surveillance, threat assessment, crisis management. She's testified before Congress twice, been commended by 2 different administrations, holds a security clearance that would make Officer Brenner's head spin, and she chose not to reveal any of it, because she wanted to see what would happen, how far they'd go, what system they have in place for harassing citizens who can't push back the way she can. Now she knows. She picks up her phone, scrolls through her contacts until she finds the name she's looking for. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Martinez, a friend from law school who chose prosecution while Marissa chose federal service. The call connects on the second ring. Marissa, it's Saturday. This better be good. Jen, I need you to listen to something, and then I need you to tell me if what I'm thinking is as bad as I think it is. She tells the story, every detail, keeping her voice clinical, professional. When she gets to the part about the text message, Jennifer's sharp intake of breath is audible. They got your personal cell? That's not from running your license. That's someone accessing databases they shouldn't have access to, or having someone else do it for them. You need to file a complaint tonight. Get it on record before they can coordinate their stories. I will. But Jen, I don't think this was random. The way they worked together, the escalation pattern, how quickly they backed off when Mendez showed something to Voss. You think you were targeted? I think they have a system, and I think I'm not the first. There's a pause. Then Jennifer's voice comes back, harder now, prosecutor mode engaged. Send me everything. Documentation, timeline, that text message, everything. This isn't federal jurisdiction. It is if they're using federal databases. It is if this is a pattern of civil rights violations. And it definitely is if they're targeting a federal official, even if they don't know that's what they're doing. After the call, Marissa makes another cup of tea and returns to her laptop. She begins drafting her complaint, but now with a different focus. Not just what happened to her, but what it suggests about a larger pattern. The coordination, the documentation habits that suggest they're building files on citizens, the way they knew exactly how far to push without creating liability. Her phone buzzes again. Same unknown number. Shopping anywhere tomorrow? Just curious. She screenshots this one too. Then she does something she learned in her threat assessment training. She creates a new email account, encrypted, and begins forwarding herself everything. Documentation, screenshots, her written account. She sends copies to 3 different cloud storage services, creates a physical backup on a thumb drive. Because if they're willing to text threats to someone they think is just a random citizen, what will they do when they find out who she really is? The thought should frighten her. Instead, it crystallizes something. They chose the wrong target. Not because she's federal law enforcement. She's not a special agent, doesn't carry a gun. Her authority is administrative rather than operational. They chose wrong because she understands systems, understands how institutional corruption works, understands that the best way to fight it isn't with a badge, but with documentation, patience, and the willingness to see it through. Her doorbell rings at 7:43 p.m., unexpected. Through the peephole, she sees a young man in a polo shirt holding a clipboard. Behind him, a van with a pest control company logo. Yes? Ms. Kane? We're here for your scheduled service. I didn't schedule any service. Says here you called this morning about a roach problem? She didn't. But she recognizes this too, the intimidation that isn't quite intimidation. We know where you live. We can show up any time. You have the wrong address. This is 2847 Bayshore? It is. He knows it is. She can see him reading the numbers next to her door. I said you have the wrong address. He shrugs, makes a show of checking his clipboard again, then leaves. Through her window, she watches the van sit there for another 10 minutes before finally driving away. No other houses on the street get a visit. She adds this to her documentation too. Time, date, company name from the van, physical description of the man. Every detail matters when building a pattern. By 10 p.m., she's compiled 13 pages of documentation. She's identified 4 different databases that would need to be accessed to get her cell phone number from just her driver's license. She's found 3 similar complaints filed against Officer Brenner in the past 2 years, all dismissed for insufficient evidence. She's discovered that Sergeant Voss was transferred from another precinct after unspecified personality conflicts, which in cop speak usually means someone complained too loudly about her behavior. But the most interesting thing she finds is a pattern in the dispatch logs. Similar calls, Suspicious person in parking lot. At West Shore Plaza, going back 18 months. Always on Saturdays. Always between 2 and 4 p.m. Always involving Black or Hispanic individuals who were detained, searched, and released without charges. 47 incidents in total. She leans back in her chair, staring at the screen. 47 people who went through some version of what she experienced today. 47 people who probably didn't have her training, her resources, her ability to fight back. 47 people who were just trying to shop on a Saturday afternoon. Her phone rings. The caller ID shows unknown, but she answers anyway. Ms. Kane? The voice is female, older, carefully neutral. This is Lieutenant Patricia Carver with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I understand there was an incident today at West Shore Plaza. Word travels fast. Someone, probably Voss, has already reported up the chain that they encountered a problem citizen, one who knows her rights, one who might file a complaint. Yes, there was. I wanted to reach out personally to see if we could resolve any concerns you might have. At 10 p.m. on a Saturday? I take citizen concerns very seriously, Ms. Kane. Perhaps we could meet Monday morning to discuss the situation. I'll be filing a formal complaint through proper channels. There's a pause. That's certainly your right, but sometimes these misunderstandings can be cleared up with a simple conversation. Officer Brenner can sometimes come across as aggressive when he's just being thorough. All 4 officers were involved, not just Officer Brenner. Another pause, longer. 4? I was told it was a routine stop. Sergeant Voss, Detective Mendez, Officer Brenner, and Officer Huang, plus a K-9 unit. 6 officers total for someone shopping at Williams-Sonoma. I see. The lieutenant's tone shifts slightly. Ms. Kane, may I ask what you do for a living? Here it is. The fishing expedition. They know something's off about her, something that doesn't fit their usual target profile. The way she handled herself, the legal knowledge, the complete lack of fear even when surrounded. I work for the government. Federal or state. I prefer not to discuss my employment over the phone. Of course. Well, my offer stands. My office Monday morning, we can review any body camera footage. The body cameras that were turned off? Silence. Then, I wasn't aware of that. She probably wasn't. The lieutenants usually aren't aware of half the things their officers do, maintaining plausible deniability while their sergeants handle the dirty work. Lieutenant Carver, I appreciate your call, but I'll be pursuing this through official channels. Have a good evening. She hangs up before Carver can respond. Immediately, her phone buzzes with another text from that unknown number. Bad move. She doesn't respond. Instead, she calls Jennifer back. They're escalating already. I need you to open a file tonight. I'm already on it. Marissa, I ran some searches. That plaza, those officers, there's something there. 3 federal employees have filed similar complaints in the past year. All dismissed locally, but there's a pattern. Federal employees? Of course. The plaza is 4 miles from the federal building downtown, a straight shot down Kennedy Boulevard. It's where federal workers go to shop on weekends, away from the downtown congestion. Someone figured out that pattern, decided to exploit it. Jen, I think this is bigger than just harassment. I think they're profiling federal employees. For what purpose? Information gathering, maybe? Intimidation? Or maybe they just figured out that federal employees are less likely to file complaints because they don't want workplace complications. Either way, it's our jurisdiction now. Can you come to my office tomorrow? It's Sunday. And they're texting threats to your personal phone. We're not waiting until Monday. After the call, Marissa walks through her house, checking windows, doors, her simple security system. Everything's locked, secure, normal, but she can't shake the feeling of being watched. Not paranoia. She's trained to recognize surveillance, and something's off. A car that's been parked across the street for 2 hours with someone sitting in it. The same jogger passing by for the 3rd time. She texts Jennifer. I think they're watching my house. The response is immediate. Document everything. Photos if you can. I'm calling someone. Marissa uses her phone to photograph the car across the street, zooming in enough to capture the license plate. The jogger is gone now, but she makes a note of the description. White male, 30s, blue running shorts, gray t-shirt, passed by at 8:15, 8:45, and 9:20 p.m. 20 minutes later, an unmarked federal vehicle pulls up in front of her house. 2 agents get out. Their movement's professional, but not rushed. They're not here to make arrests. They're here to establish presence, to let whoever's watching know that Marissa Kane isn't alone. One of them approaches her door. Through the peephole, she can see his credentials already out. Ms. Kane? Special Agent Rodriguez, FBI. AUSA Martinez asked us to check on you. She opens the door, noting how Rodriguez positions himself to scan the street while maintaining eye contact with her. "Thank you for coming. Ma'am, we're going to be in the area tonight. If you see anything concerning, you have my card. Don't hesitate." He hands her a business card, and she notices him note the car across the street, the same one she photographed. His partner is already on his phone, probably running the plate. "Ms. Kane, just so you're aware, that vehicle is registered to someone with ties to local law enforcement. We'll be having a conversation with them." After they leave, the car across the street starts up and drives away within 5 minutes. The jogger doesn't make a fourth pass. The message has been received. Marissa Kane has federal backing, but she knows this is just the beginning. They'll back off tonight, regroup, come at her differently. Maybe through her employer, background investigations suddenly finding concerns. Maybe through her finances, audits and inquiries that find nothing but consume time and energy. Maybe through smaller harassments, tickets, citations, the 1,000 cuts of bureaucratic warfare. She returns to her laptop, opens a new document. If they want to fight, she'll give them one. But not the kind they expect. Not badges and authority and federal versus local jurisdiction. She'll give them what she's best at. Systematic documentation, pattern analysis, the slow build of evidence that constructs an undeniable narrative. She titles the document, Pattern Analysis, Systematic Harassment of Federal Employees at West Shore Plaza. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe and the notification bell. This story's just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens when they realize who they've really targeted. By midnight, she's identified 17 correlations between the dispatch times and federal pay periods. The harassment spike on the Saturdays after federal paydays, when employees are most likely to be shopping. She's found social media connections between 3 of the officers and a private security firm that contracts with companies trying to get federal contracts. She's discovered that Detective Mendez's brother works for a data mining company that specializes in background checks. The picture forming isn't just corruption. It's organized intelligence gathering disguised as routine police work. The citations and warnings create a database of federal employees. The searches provide information about their vehicles, their habits, their associations. The intimidation keeps them from reporting it, making them vulnerable to further exploitation. Her secure phone, the one she uses for sensitive federal communications, buzzes with an encrypted message from her supervisor at DHS. "Heard you had an interesting Saturday. Need a briefing Monday morning." Word travels fast in federal circles too. By Monday, this won't just be a local law enforcement issue. It'll be a potential national security concern. Local officers systematically gathering intelligence on federal employees, possibly selling that information, certainly using it for purposes beyond legitimate law enforcement. But that's Monday's problem. Tonight, she needs to focus on documentation, on building the case that will make this impossible to ignore or dismiss. She pulls up the video from her doorbell camera, which captured the pest control van clearly. The company logo is visible, the license plate clear. A quick search reveals the company doesn't exist. The van is a prop, the visit pure intimidation. Another piece of evidence, another thread in the pattern. At 2 a.m., she finally closes her laptop. She's exhausted but wired, the adrenaline of the day still coursing through her system. She makes one more cup of tea, sits in her darkened living room, and thinks about those 47 other incidents. 47 other people who were just trying to live their lives. Tomorrow, Jennifer will open an official investigation. Agents will start interviewing witnesses, pulling surveillance footage, examining database access logs. The machinery of federal justice will begin its slow grind. But tonight, it's just Marissa Kane in her townhouse, holding a cooling cup of chamomile tea, thinking about a text message that said "bad move" and knowing that for them, it was. They picked the wrong target. Not because she's powerful or connected or immune to their harassment. They picked wrong because she's patient, methodical, and trained to see patterns they thought were invisible. Her personal phone buzzes one more time. Unknown number, but different from before. "Ms. Kane, this is Officer Huang. I'm off duty, and this is my personal phone. I think we should talk." Not all of us agreed with what happened today. She stares at the message for a long moment. A crack in their unity? Or another angle of attack? The good cop routine extended beyond the parking lot? She doesn't respond. Not yet. But she screenshots it, adds it to her documentation. Every piece matters, even the ones that don't fit the pattern clearly. Outside, Hyde Park is quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like safety but isn't, not really. Safety is an illusion when the people sworn to protect you see you as a target. When shopping, while black becomes an intelligence gathering opportunity. When existing in public spaces requires constant documentation of your right to exist. But Marissa Kane has spent 15 years in federal service learning a fundamental truth. Systems that seem invincible are actually fragile. They depend on silence, on intimidation working, on people not pushing back. They depend on their targets not understanding how the system works, not having the resources to fight, not possessing the patience to see it through. She has all three. Monday morning, when she walks into the federal building downtown, she'll do so as Regional Director Marissa Kane of the Department of Homeland Security. She'll brief her superiors on a potential security breach involving local law enforcement targeting federal employees. She'll provide 13 pages of documentation, 47 incident reports, and evidence of systematic intelligence gathering. But that's Monday. Tonight, she's just Marissa Kane, citizen, sitting in her darkened living room, thinking about Officer Brenner's sneer, Sergeant Voss's calculated coldness, the way they thought they had her boxed in. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Her laptop pings with an encrypted email from Jennifer. The subject line is simple. "We found something." She opens it, reads the contents, and feels her breath catch. The financial forensics team Jennifer quietly contacted has found something in their preliminary search. Unusual deposits in Officer Brenner's accounts, amounts that match payments from a company that's been flagged by federal authorities for suspicious activities related to foreign intelligence services. This isn't just harassment. It isn't just intelligence gathering. It's potentially espionage. The parking lot encounter suddenly takes on a different dimension. Were they targeting her randomly, or did someone know exactly who she was? Was this harassment that accidentally caught a federal official, or was she specifically chosen because of her position at DHS? She thinks about the pest control van, the jogger, the car across the street. Not just intimidation tactics, but surveillance. Professional surveillance. Her secure phone rings. It's her supervisor. "Marissa, I need you to come in, now." It's 2:30 in the morning. "I know. There's been a development. The incident today, it wasn't random. We've been tracking similar encounters in 12 cities, all involving federal employees with security clearances, all using the same pattern." The floor seems to drop away beneath her. This isn't just local corruption. It's a national operation, and she's stumbled into the middle of it. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She stands, sets down her tea, and goes to her bedroom to change. As she does, she thinks about that moment in the parking lot when Brenner demanded she put her hands where he could see them. The way he moved, the positioning, the escalation, it wasn't just aggressive policing. It was trained. Someone taught him those specific techniques, that specific approach. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. As she drives through the empty streets toward downtown, she passes West Shore Plaza. The parking lot is empty now, lit by the same lights that witnessed her encounter 12 hours ago. It looks peaceful, harmless, just a shopping center waiting for Sunday's customers. But Marissa knows better now. It's a hunting ground, carefully chosen, methodically exploited. And she was both bait and hunter, though neither side fully realized it at the time. The federal building's parking garage is nearly empty, just a few vehicles belonging to the night shift, and now hers. She badges in through 3 levels of security, each checkpoint noting her arrival. By the time she reaches her supervisor's office on the 7th floor, there are 6 people waiting. Her supervisor, 2 FBI agents she doesn't recognize, someone from the Office of Inspector General, Jennifer Martinez, and a woman in a suit expensive enough to suggest Main Justice in Washington. Marissa, her supervisor, Deputy Director James Powell, stands as she enters. "Thank you for coming. I believe you know AUSA Martinez. Let me introduce the others." The introductions are quick, efficient. The FBI agents are from the Counterintelligence Division. The woman from Washington is Deputy Assistant Attorney General Sarah Chen, who flew down this evening specifically for this. "Ms. Kane," Chen begins without preamble. "What happened to you today appears to be part of something we've been tracking for 6 months. We believe foreign intelligence services have compromised multiple local law enforcement agencies, using them to gather information on federal employees." The parking lot stops? Among other things, but you're the first target who's been in a position to recognize and document the pattern comprehensively. Your report tonight connected dots we've been trying to link for months. Powell pulls up a map on the wall screen. Red dots appear in 12 cities: Tampa, Miami, Atlanta, Houston, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Seattle, Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Boston. Each of these cities has reported similar incidents. Local law enforcement conducting aggressive stops of federal employees near shopping centers, restaurants, gyms, anywhere they gather off-duty. The encounters follow the same pattern: multiple officers, escalating intimidation, searches that find nothing, documentation that goes nowhere. "But creates a database," Marissa says, understanding immediately. "They're mapping federal employees, their routines, their associations, their vulnerabilities." Exactly. And in 6 cases, federal employees who were stopped later reported attempted recruitment approaches. Someone reaching out, offering money for harmless information. Which is never harmless. No, it's not. FBI Special Agent Crawford, the older of the 2 agents, opens a folder. Officer Kyle Brenner has received $47,000 in deposits over the past 18 months, all from different sources, all just under reporting requirements. Sergeant Patricia Voss has received $38,000. Detective Rosa Mendez, $62,000. Mendez is getting paid more? She has access to more databases. She's been running searches not just on the people they stop, but on their families, their contacts, their financial records. That's illegal. Extremely. But proving it requires showing intent, showing they knew what the information was being used for. That's where today's incident becomes crucial. Chen takes over. They pushed too hard with you. The text messages, the surveillance at your house, the fake pest control visit, that's not their usual pattern. Something about you specifically triggered an escalation. Marissa thinks about the moment in the parking lot when she cited Florida Statute 810-09, the way Brenner's expression changed. I don't think they knew I was federal. I think they just saw someone who knew her rights and panicked. Or, Powell says quietly, someone told them you were important, but not why. Let them think you were a lawyer or activist, someone worth extra attention. The implication hangs in the air. A mole. Someone inside the federal system feeding information to compromise local law enforcement. We need you to go forward with your complaint, Chen says. Publicly. Make noise. Draw them out. Make myself a target. You already are. But now you'll be a target with full federal protection and the resources to document everything they do. Every contact, every approach, every escalation becomes evidence. And Officer Huang? Marissa mentions the text. He reached out separately. The room exchanges glances. Crawford speaks. Huang's not on our radar. No unusual deposits, no suspicious contacts. He might actually be what he appears, a junior officer uncomfortable with what he witnessed. Or he's their clean face, the one without a trail. Possible. That's why we need you to engage, carefully. Document everything. The meeting continues for another hour, laying out protocols, safety measures, communication channels. By the time it ends, the sun is starting to rise over Tampa Bay, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange that seem too peaceful for the conversation that just concluded. Jennifer walks out with her, both women exhausted but wired. You okay? Jennifer asks as they wait for the elevator. I've been better. Yesterday I was just trying to buy a cookbook stand. And instead you uncovered what might be the largest espionage operation targeting federal employees in decades. Lucky me. They ride down in silence, both processing the magnitude of what they're facing. In the parking garage before they separate, Jennifer turns to her. Marissa, they're going to come at you hard now. The complaint will trigger everything they have. I know. Your career, your reputation, your safety, it's all at risk. I know. So why? You could walk away, let others handle it. Marissa thinks about the 47 incidents at West Shore Plaza alone. 47 people who didn't have her training, her resources, her ability to fight back. Because I can. Because they picked me thinking I couldn't. And because someone needs to show them that the system they're exploiting can bite back. She drives home as the city wakes up. Early morning joggers replacing the suspicious one from last night. Normal traffic beginning to build. Her phone has 17 missed calls, all from unknown numbers. The harassment is already intensifying, but so is the federal response. As she pulls into her driveway, she notices a different unmarked car parked where the surveillance was last night. Federal agents maintaining a protective presence. Her house is now under 24-hour watch, though they'll try to be discreet about it. Inside, she makes coffee instead of tea. She needs the caffeine now, and opens her laptop. The formal complaint form for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is straightforward, asking for basic information about the incident. But Marissa doesn't fill it out, basically. She attaches her 13 pages of documentation, the timeline, the pattern analysis. She includes the text messages, the surveillance photos, everything. Then she adds a paragraph that will change everything. I believe this incident is part of a larger pattern of harassment targeting federal employees, possibly for intelligence gathering purposes. As Regional Director of Homeland Security's Protective Security Coordination Division, I have a duty to report potential security breaches. This complaint serves as both a citizen report of police misconduct and an official notification of potential espionage activities targeting federal personnel. She hits submit at 7:43 a.m., exactly 17 hours after the pest control van appeared at her door. Within minutes, her phone rings. Lieutenant Carver. Ms. Kane, I see you filed a complaint. I also see you've made some very serious accusations. I've documented facts, Lieutenant. The conclusions draw themselves. You claim to be a federal director. That wasn't mentioned yesterday. Your officers never asked about my specific employment, only whether I was a lawyer. This changes things. It shouldn't. Every citizen deserves to shop without harassment, federal employee or not. You know what I mean. This complaint, it's going to trigger investigations at multiple levels. That's the idea. There's a long pause. Ms. Kane, you seem like an intelligent woman. Surely you understand that misunderstandings can be resolved without destroying careers. Whose careers are you concerned about, Lieutenant? Officers who might have made mistakes but don't deserve to be caught up in federal conspiracies. If they made mistakes, they should face appropriate consequences. If they're part of something larger, that needs to be exposed. Either way, the truth needs to come out. The truth. Carver's voice carries something. Not quite threat, not quite warning, but close to both. The truth can be complicated. People's lives, their families, their futures. Are you threatening me, Lieutenant? Not at all. I'm simply suggesting that sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. I'll keep that in mind. Have a good morning, Lieutenant. She hangs up and immediately forwards the recording of the call. Florida is a two-party consent state, but she'd announced she was recording at the beginning, and Carver hadn't objected, to Jennifer and the FBI team. By 8:30, her complaint has been viewed over 100 times according to the system's tracking. That's unusual for a Sunday morning, suggesting it's being shared widely within the department. Good. Let them all see it. Let them understand that their usual tactics won't work. At 9, Officer Huang texts again. I know you probably don't trust me, but I need to tell you something. They're planning something for tomorrow. Please be careful. She forwards this to her FBI contact, then responds. If you have information about potential criminal activity, you should report it to appropriate authorities. I can't. They'll know it was me. But you should know that Brenner's been making calls all morning. He's angry about your complaint. Thank you for the warning. There are good cops too, Ms. Kane. Some of us joined to actually protect and serve. She doesn't respond to that. Words are easy. Actions matter. If Huang really wants to help, he'll find a way to provide information that can be used, not just warnings that amount to nothing. Her doorbell rings. Through the peephole, she sees a mail carrier with a package. It's Sunday. Mail isn't delivered on Sundays unless it's special delivery. She opens the door cautiously. The carrier seems legitimate, uniform correct, truck visible at the curb. Marissa Kane? Yes. Sign here, please. She signs, takes the package, watches the carrier leave. The package is light, no return address. She takes it inside, sets it on her kitchen table, and calls the FBI agents watching her house. We saw. Don't open it. We're coming in. 2 minutes later, they're at her door with a portable scanner. The package is X-rayed, deemed safe. No devices, no powder, just paper. They open it carefully anyway. Inside is a single sheet of paper with names, dates, and dollar amounts. A list of every payment made to Brenner, Voss, and Mendez over the past 18 months. At the bottom, a note. Not all of us are for sale. Check the basement records room, third filing cabinet, folder marked Community Outreach 2023. Destroy this after reading. No signature, but Marissa recognizes the precise handwriting from Huang's notepad yesterday. He's not just warning her, he's providing evidence. The FBI agents photograph everything, then take the original. Within an hour, a federal warrant will be sought for those records. By evening, if Huang's information is good, they'll have documentary evidence of the conspiracy. But Marissa knows it won't be that simple. Nothing ever is. The records might be moved, destroyed, or might never have existed. This could be an elaborate trap to make her look paranoid, to discredit her complaint. She spends the rest of Sunday in a strange limbo, unable to leave her house because of the surveillance threat, unable to relax because of the constant tension. She works on her official DHS report about the security implications of the incident, fielding calls from increasingly senior officials as word spreads up the chain. By evening, she's briefed the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, 2 assistant directors from the FBI, and someone from the National Security Council whose name she wasn't given. The parking lot encounter has become a matter of national security interest, all because she wanted to buy a cookbook stand. At 8 p.m., Jennifer calls with news. We got the warrant. FBI's executing it now. And Marissa, Huang was right. The records are there. Detailed documentation of every payment, every target, every piece of information gathered. Why would they keep such detailed records? Because whoever's running this operation requires proof of service before payment. These aren't just corrupt cops taking bribes, they're contractors in an intelligence operation. Foreign? That's what we're trying to determine. But this is big, Marissa. Bigger than we thought. As she processes this, her doorbell rings again. This time, it's a pizza delivery, one she didn't order. The FBI agents intercept the driver, check his credentials, examine the pizza. It's just pizza, but the message is clear. We know you're being watched, and we can still reach you. She doesn't eat the pizza. Instead, she photographs it, documents the incident, adds it to her growing file. Every contact, every attempt at intimidation becomes another piece of evidence. At 10 p.m., her phone buzzes with a news alert. Someone has leaked her complaint to the media. The headline reads, "Federal official claims police harassment part of larger conspiracy." Within minutes, her phone is ringing non-stop. Reporters, colleagues, friends who've seen the news. She doesn't answer any of them. This needs to be handled carefully, strategically. One wrong word to the media could compromise the entire investigation. But the leak changes things. Now it's public. Now Brenner, Voss, Mendez, and everyone else involved knows they're under federal scrutiny. They'll either run, destroy evidence, or double down. At 11, she gets her answer. Another text from an unknown number, different from all the others. "You have no idea what you've started. This is bigger than you, bigger than your federal friends. Back off now, or what happens next is on you." She forwards it to the FBI, then responds, "I never back off from bullies. Not in parking lots, not anywhere." The response is immediate. "Your funeral." It's an explicit threat now, crossed a line that changes the FBI's response protocol. Within minutes, the agents outside are joined by others. Her security detail has just tripled. As Sunday turns to Monday, Marissa sits in her living room, surrounded by the evidence of how a simple shopping trip became a federal case. She thinks about tomorrow, about walking into the federal building as Regional Director Kane, about the meetings and briefings and decisions that will shape how this unfolds. But mostly, she thinks about that moment in the parking lot when Brenner demanded she put her hands where he could see them, the power he thought he had, the system that enabled him, the assumption that she would be another silent victim, another data point in someone's intelligence-gathering operation. They were wrong. Her laptop pings with another encrypted message from Powell. Monday's brief moved to 6 a.m. Secretary flying down from D.C. This is now Operation Shopping Cart. She almost laughs at the code name. Someone at headquarters has a sense of humor. Outside, the night is quiet, except for the subtle presence of federal agents maintaining their watch. Somewhere, Brenner and his colleagues are probably meeting, trying to figure out their next move, trying to determine how badly they've been compromised. Somewhere, whoever is running this operation, foreign intelligence, organized crime, or something else, is recalibrating, adjusting to the fact that their carefully constructed network has been exposed. And somewhere, 46 other people who were harassed at West Shore Plaza are going about their lives, not knowing that their experiences are about to become evidence in one of the largest espionage investigations in recent history. Marissa closes her laptop, turns off the lights, and heads to bed. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Tomorrow, she stops being a victim and becomes what she's trained to be, a federal official defending national security. But tonight, she's still just Marissa Kane, who wanted to buy a cookbook stand and ended up exposing a conspiracy. The second patrol car blocks her only exit route, and that's when she realizes this was never about trespassing at all. Monday morning arrives with the kind of suffocating humidity that makes Tampa feel like breathing through wet cotton. Marissa's alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m., but she's already awake, has been for an hour, reviewing the overnight intelligence reports Jennifer forwarded. The FBI raid on the Sheriff's Department records room yielded more than just payment documentation. They found target lists with hundreds of federal employees across multiple agencies, their personal information, family details, vulnerability assessments. She dresses carefully, choosing her most professional suit, the navy one that says federal authority without screaming it. Every detail matters now. She's not just Marissa Kane anymore. She's evidence, a witness, and potentially bait for whoever's running this operation. The drive to the federal building takes 15 minutes at this hour, her FBI escort subtle but present. One car ahead, one behind, maintaining distance but never losing sight. The parking garage is fuller than usual for 5:45 a.m. Word has spread. People who normally wouldn't arrive until 8 are here, drawn by the gravity of what's unfolding. The 7th floor conference room has been transformed into a tactical operations center. Maps cover the walls, photos of suspects are arranged in hierarchy charts, and there's enough coffee brewing to fuel a small army. Secretary of Homeland Security Marcus Webb stands at the center, his presence commanding, despite the early hour and the rumpled state of his usually immaculate suit. He really did fly down overnight. "Ms. Kane," he greets her with a handshake that's firm but brief. "Your Saturday shopping trip has uncovered something we've been hunting for 2 years." "Sir?" "Operation Moonlight. We knew someone was mapping federal employees, but we couldn't find the mechanism. Local law enforcement never occurred to us. We were looking at cyber intrusions, insider threats, traditional espionage. We never thought they'd use something as crude and visible as traffic stops." Deputy Assistant Attorney General Chen is there too, looking like she hasn't slept. "The records officer Huang directed us to are comprehensive. Every stop, every search, every piece of information gathered. They were keeping receipts for their handlers." Handlers plural? At least 3 different payment sources, possibly representing different buyers for the information. Someone's running a marketplace, selling federal employee data to whoever's paying. FBI Special Agent Crawford pulls up a slide showing financial flows. The money traces to shell companies in Cyprus, Panama, and Delaware. Classic money laundering structure, but sloppy enough that we can follow it. These aren't professionals. They're criminals who got in over their heads. Or were designed to be cut loose if discovered, Marissa observes. Brenner and the others, they're expendable. Whoever's really running this has insulation. Exactly. Secretary Webb turns to her. "Which is why we need to let this play out. Your complaint has stirred the pot. They'll make moves now, try to cover their tracks or eliminate problems. Every action they take reveals more of the network. You want me to continue being a target? With full protection and support, we've got surveillance on all the principals, taps approved on their communications, financial tracking in real time. But you're the catalyst. They're focused on you, which means I'm the one they'll come after to send a message." Yes, Marissa considers this. She could say no, could invoke her rights as a federal employee to be reassigned, relocated, removed from danger. But she thinks about those 47 names, those hundreds more on the target lists, all the people who didn't have her training or resources. "What do you need me to do?" The relief in the room is palpable. Chen pulls out a folder. "First, we're going public with your position. A press conference at 9 a.m., announcing that a senior DHS official was subjected to harassment and that federal authorities are investigating. We won't reveal the espionage angle, just the civil rights violations. That'll paint a target on my back. It also makes you too visible to touch. They can't make a federal director disappear without triggering massive response. Plus, it might flush out whoever's running this. They'll need to do damage control, reach out to their assets, possibly try to flee. Every move gives us more intelligence." The briefing continues for another hour, laying out contingencies, communication protocols, safety measures. By 7 a.m., Marissa's life has been completely restructured around being bait in a federal counterintelligence operation. Jennifer arrives with coffee and updates from the overnight surveillance. Brenner met with Voss and Mendez at 2 a.m. in a Waffle House parking lot. They were careful, no phones, but we had a parabolic mic on them. She plays the audio. Brenner's voice is tight with panic. "They got the basement files. Someone leaked." Voss's response is colder. "Not leaked. Gave. Someone gave them up. Question is who?" "Huang's been acting strange," Mendez says. "Asking questions about the stops, wanting to see documentation. Kid's got a conscience, liability. So we handle it." "No." This from Voss, firm. "No handling anything right now. We're being watched. Every move we make is documented. We stick to the story. Routine stops based on legitimate complaints. The payments were consultation fees for security training, all legal." "That's not going to hold." "It doesn't have to hold forever, just long enough." "Long enough for what?" Silence. Then Voss again. "For our friends to clean up their mess. We're not the important ones here. We're just contractors. The real players, they're already moving." The recording ends. Crawford looks grim. "We've got them on conspiracy, but that reference to real players confirms what we suspected. They're small fish." "Small fish who know they're expendable," Marissa notes. "That makes them dangerous. They've got nothing to lose now." At 8:30, she's in makeup, the FBI insisted. Said image matters for the press conference. As the artist works, Marissa's phone buzzes with a text from her sister in Atlanta. "Saw the news. Are you okay? Mom's freaking out." She hadn't thought about her family, how this would affect them. Her mother, retired in Savannah, proud of her daughter's federal service, but always worried about the dangers. Her sister, a teacher, who would now have to explain to colleagues why her sister is on the news. "I'm fine. Federal protection. We'll call tonight." But she wonders if fine is accurate. Her life has been turned inside out in 48 hours. Her privacy is gone, her routines disrupted, her future uncertain. All because she wanted to buy a cookbook stand. The press conference is held in the federal building's atrium, a space designed to impress with its marble and glass, its subtle display of federal power. Marissa stands beside Secretary Webb as he speaks, her face carefully neutral as he describes the incident, condemns the harassment, announces a full investigation. Then, it's her turn at the podium. On Saturday afternoon, I went shopping at West Shore Plaza, something I've done many times. What should have been a routine errand became a coordinated harassment involving 6 law enforcement officers. I was detained, searched, threatened, and followed to my home. This happened not because I committed any crime, but because of the color of my skin and because I insisted on my constitutional rights. She pauses, lets that sink in. The reporters are scribbling, cameras rolling. As Regional Director of Homeland Security's Protective Security Coordination Division, I've spent my career protecting federal facilities and personnel. I never expected to need protection myself while buying kitchen supplies. But this incident has revealed something larger, a pattern of harassment targeting federal employees and citizens in multiple jurisdictions. A reporter shouts a question. Director Kane, are you saying this was targeted specifically at you? I'm saying that what happened to me has happened to dozens of others who didn't have my platform or resources to fight back. This isn't about one incident. It's about a system that enables and protects abuse of power. Do you believe there's corruption in the Hillsborough Sheriff's Office? She glances at Chen, who nods slightly. I believe the evidence will speak for itself. Federal authorities are investigating, and I have full confidence in that process. More questions come rapid fire. She answers carefully, sticking to facts, avoiding speculation. But one question stops her cold. Director Kane, have you received any threats since filing your complaint? The room goes quiet. This is the moment where she could reveal the texts, the surveillance, the escalation. But that would compromise the investigation, alert the network that their intimidation tactics are being documented. I've received an overwhelming amount of support from colleagues and citizens who've experienced similar harassment. That's what I'm focused on, making sure this never happens to anyone else. It's not a lie, but it's not the whole truth either. The press conference ends with Secretary Webb announcing the creation of a task force to investigate civil rights violations by local law enforcement against federal employees. It sounds bureaucratic, almost boring. The reporters don't realize they're witnessing the public face of one of the largest counterintelligence operations in recent history. Back in the operations center, the team is monitoring communications. Brenner's phone has been lighting up with calls he's not answering. Voss has been texting someone using a burner phone the FBI hasn't identified yet. Mendez has been at her computer all morning, possibly trying to delete evidence, not knowing the FBI has already mirrored her hard drive. We've got movement, Crawford announces. Lieutenant Carver just entered the federal building. Carver, the one who called Marissa Saturday night, who tried to smooth things over. She's not on the payment lists, but her behavior suggests knowledge of the operation. 20 minutes later, Carver is in an interview room with FBI agents. Marissa watches through one-way glass as the lieutenant tries to maintain composure. I want to cooperate, Carver says, but I need protection. These people, they have connections everywhere. Who are these people? The agent asks. I don't know who's running it, but I know Voss reports to someone outside the department, someone who gives her target lists, tells her who to watch, who to stop. How long have you known? 6 months, maybe more. I tried to shut it down quietly, transferred some officers, changed assignments. But it was bigger than just our department. Other agencies were involved. Municipal police, state troopers, even some federal contractors with security clearances. Why didn't you report it? Carver's laugh is bitter. To whom? Every time I tried to document something, the evidence would disappear. Files deleted, witnesses suddenly reluctant to talk. And then they came to me. Not threats exactly, but mentions of my daughter at Florida State, my son's new job at that tech startup. The message was clear. Marissa feels a flicker of sympathy. Carver was trapped, trying to protect her family while watching her department rot from within. But sympathy doesn't excuse inaction, doesn't absolve the responsibility to those 47 people who were harassed while Carver stayed silent. The interview continues for 2 hours. Carver provides names, dates, patterns she's observed. She identifies a warehouse in Ybor City where Voss meets with someone monthly, always at night, always alone. She talks about unusual transfers of personnel, officers with poor records suddenly getting prime assignments after participating in the stops. There's something else, Carver says finally. Huang came to me Friday night before the incident with Director Kane. He was concerned about a federal employee on their Saturday target list, someone important, though the intel didn't specify who. He wanted to warn them off, maybe call in sick, avoid the stop. What did you tell him? To do his job and keep his mouth shut if he wanted to keep his career. I didn't know it would be a DHS director. I thought it would be another GS-12 nobody, someone who would file a complaint that went nowhere like all the others. The casual dismissal of GS-12 nobodies makes Marissa's jaw clench. Those nobodies are people with families, careers, dignity that deserves respect regardless of their pay grade. Crawford enters the observation room. We've got a problem. Mendez is moving. She just withdrew $50,000 in cash from multiple ATMs and is heading for the airport. Pick her up? Can't. We don't have enough for arrest yet, and if we tip our hand, the whole network scatters. Secretary Webb makes the call. Let her run but maintain surveillance. See where she goes, who she contacts. They watch on monitors as Mendez books a flight to Mexico City, one way, leaving in 3 hours. She's abandoning everything, her job, her home, her life in Tampa. That kind of desperation suggests she knows how deep the trouble is, maybe knows things the investigation hasn't uncovered yet. Meanwhile, Marissa's phone has been buzzing with interview requests. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, every major network wants her story. The local news has been camping outside the federal building, interviewing any employee willing to talk about their experiences with law enforcement. We need you to do one, Chen says. Tonight, prime time. Keep the pressure on. Keep them reacting instead of planning. Which network? Your choice. They're all offering exclusive segments. Marissa thinks strategically. She needs something with reach but also credibility, something that will be seen by the right people, including whoever's running this operation. 60 Minutes has been texting. They can rush a segment for Sunday if I do the interview today. Perfect. We'll prep you this afternoon. But first, there's another meeting. Officer Derek Huang has agreed to come in voluntarily, without a lawyer, to provide information. Huang looks younger than his 31 years, sitting in the interview room with the kind of nervous energy that comes from knowing you're betraying your brothers in blue. His hands shake slightly as he accepts a cup of coffee. I joined the force to help people, he begins without prompting. My parents immigrated from Taiwan when I was 5. They always told me America was about justice, fairness, opportunity. I believed that. He pauses, gathering himself. The first stop I witnessed was 3 months into the job. A black professional, suit and tie, driving a Tesla. Brenner said the car was too nice, must be stolen or drugs. We ran the plates, ran his license, searched the vehicle. Found nothing because there was nothing to find. The man was a federal prosecutor. What happened? Nothing. Voss made some calls, smoothed it over. The prosecutor never filed a complaint. I think they threatened him somehow, maybe had something on him. But I started paying attention after that. Huang pulls out a notebook, his personal documentation of what he witnessed. Dates, times, names, badge numbers. He's been building his own case, knowing this day would come. The pattern was always the same. Federal employees, usually minorities, stopped for bogus reasons. Always multiple units, always aggressive, always documented extensively, even when no citation was issued. Voss would collect the reports personally, said it was for statistics. But they never went into the normal system. Where did they go? I followed her once. She went to a storage unit off Dale Mabry, spent an hour inside, came out with an envelope. Thick, like cash. I think that's where she keeps the real files, the ones that document everything. Crawford's already on his phone, getting a warrant for the storage facility. This could be the break they need. Physical evidence of the entire operation. Why Director Kane? The interviewer asks. What made them target her specifically? I don't think they knew who she was initially. But Friday night, Mendez got a tip that someone important would be shopping at West Shore Saturday afternoon. Someone with high-level clearance who was already on a watch list. Whose watch list? I don't know. But it wasn't ours. The information came from outside, someone who knew federal employees' routines, their vulnerabilities. Mendez was excited, said this could be a big payday if they got the right information. Marissa processes this. Someone knew she shopped at West Shore on Saturdays, knew her routine well enough to predict her presence. That suggests surveillance beyond just random stops. Someone has been watching federal employees systematically, building patterns, waiting for opportunities. Is there anything else? The interviewer asks. Huang hesitates, then nods. There's a deputy U.S. Marshal involved, Raymond Fitch. He provides information about federal employees, who's vulnerable, who has financial problems, who might be turned. He gets a cut of whatever information they sell. The room goes cold. A federal law enforcement officer actively participating in espionage against his own colleagues. This isn't just corruption, it's treason. Within minutes, U.S. Marshals from another district are dispatched to arrest Fitch. The investigation has just jumped to another level of seriousness. The storage unit warrant comes through at 2 p.m. The FBI tactical team finds exactly what Huang described. Boxes of files documenting every stop, every search, every piece of intelligence gathered. But more importantly, they find communication devices, encrypted phones that connect to numbers in Moscow, Beijing, Tehran. Foreign intelligence services, Crawford confirms grimly. They weren't just selling to one buyer, they were running an auction. Highest bidder gets the intel on specific federal employees. Secretary Webb looks sick. How many employees have been compromised? Based on these files, over 300 in Florida alone. If the pattern holds in the other cities, we're looking at thousands. The magnitude is staggering. Thousands of federal employees' personal information, vulnerabilities, and routines sold to foreign intelligence services. The security implications will take years to fully understand and address. At 4 p.m., Marissa sits for the 60 Minutes interview. The reporter, Anderson Cooper, has a reputation for tough but fair questioning. He doesn't disappoint. Director Kane, you could have ended this situation immediately by showing your federal credentials. Why didn't you? She's prepared for this question. Because every citizen deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their job title. If I had immediately identified myself as a federal director, they would have apologized and moved on to harass someone else who couldn't push back. That's not justice, that's privilege. But by not identifying yourself, didn't you escalate the situation? I followed every lawful order, provided identification when asked, remained calm throughout. The escalation came from officers who were upset that I knew my rights and wasn't intimidated by their tactics. You've received death threats since filing your complaint. Are you concerned for your safety? This hasn't been made public yet. Cooper has good sources. I'm concerned for every citizen who faces harassment without the protection I have. Yes, there have been threats, but backing down in the face of intimidation only encourages more abuse. The sheriff's office claims this was a routine stop based on a legitimate complaint. Then they should have no problem providing the original complaint, the caller's information, and explaining why 6 officers were needed for someone shopping at Williams-Sonoma. They should also explain the text messages sent to my personal phone afterward, which they could only have obtained through illegal database searches. Cooper pauses, his expression thoughtful. Director Kane, what do you want to come from this? Accountability, not just for the officers involved, but for the system that enabled them, and protection for the hundreds of other victims who've been subjected to similar harassment. This isn't about me, it's about ensuring that law enforcement serves and protects everyone equally. The interview will air Sunday, edited and packaged with additional investigation by 60 Minutes team. But even the raw footage is powerful. A senior federal official calmly describing harassment, threats, and a conspiracy that reaches into the heart of national security. As she leaves the studio, her phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Different from the others. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. We know everything about you. Your sister Sarah teaches 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary in Atlanta. Your mother shops at the Kroger on Wilmington Island every Tuesday. Back off, or they become targets too. The threat against her family crosses another line. She forwards it immediately to her protection detail, and within minutes, federal agents are dispatched to provide security for her sister and mother. But the text reveals something important. They're desperate enough to threaten family members, which means the investigation is working. They're scared, making mistakes, leaving traces. That evening, the arrests begin. Brenner is taken into custody at his home, charged with conspiracy to violate civil rights, illegal database access, and accepting bribes. Voss is arrested at the warehouse, where Carver said she met her contacts, caught with $60,000 in cash and encrypted phones linking her to foreign intelligence officers. Mendez never makes her flight to Mexico City. She's arrested at the gate, trying to board with a fake passport. The desperation to flee proves consciousness of guilt, making the prosecutor's job easier. Deputy U.S. Marshal Raymond Fitch is arrested at his desk, his computer seized before he can delete anything. The forensic team finds years of communications, target lists he provided, payments received. He wasn't just participating, he was one of the architects of the entire operation. But the real breakthrough comes at 7 p.m., when one of the encrypted phones in the storage unit receives a call. The FBI lets it ring, records the number, traces it to a conference call service registered to a shell company. They get a warrant for the service's records and find something stunning. Regular conference calls with participants from 4 countries, discussing merchandise using code words that clearly refer to federal employees. It's a marketplace, Crawford explains to the team. They turned intelligence gathering into a business. Local law enforcement does the collection, middlemen like Fitch identify targets, and foreign services bid on the information. Who's running it? Secretary Webb demands. Still working on that. But we've identified at least one coordinator, someone using the handle Marketplace. They're technically sophisticated, using multiple layers of encryption and anonymization. But they made one mistake. They paid for the conference service with a credit card that traces back to a law firm here in Tampa. The law firm, Hartley, Brennan and Associates, specializes in international trade law. Their client list includes multiple foreign companies that have been flagged by intelligence services as potential fronts. We need a warrant. Already in process, Chen interrupts. We'll have it within the hour, but this is sensitive. If we're wrong, we're accusing a major law firm of espionage. If we're right, they've been using attorney-client privilege to shield foreign intelligence operations. Marissa thinks about the elegance of it. A law firm providing legitimate cover for intelligence gathering, using their international connections and legal protections to facilitate espionage. It's brilliant and terrifying. At 9 p.m., she's finally able to call her family. Her mother answers on the first ring. Marissa, baby, are you okay? There are federal agents here. They say you're in danger. I'm safe, Mom. They're just being cautious. How are you doing? Scared, confused, proud. Her mother's voice cracks slightly. The news says you stood up to those officers, that you're fighting back. I'm trying to. Your father would be proud. He always said you were destined to do important things. Her father, who passed 5 years ago, who'd worked his whole life as a postal clerk, who'd saved every penny to put his daughters through college. He'd lived to see her join federal service, but not to see her become a director. Mom, you might need to stay with Sarah for a while, until this is resolved. How long will that be? Marissa doesn't have an answer. The investigation could take months, the trials years. The foreign intelligence aspects could mean some of it never becomes public, hidden behind classification stamps and national security concerns. I don't know, but we'll get through it together. After the call, she sits in her office. She's been moved to a secure area of the federal building for her protection and reviews the evidence gathered so far. Hundreds of pages of documents, financial records, communication logs. The conspiracy is vast but also fragile, built on greed and intimidation rather than ideology. That makes it both easier and harder to fight. Easier because the participants will flip to save themselves. Harder because there's no central organization to target. Her secure phone rings. It's Powell, her supervisor. Marissa, we've got a situation. Someone just walked into the Miami FBI office claiming to have information about the operation. Says they're the one running Marketplace. They're turning themselves in? Not exactly. They want immunity in exchange for information about the foreign intelligence services involved. Full immunity, witness protection, the whole package. Who is it? Jonathan Hartley, senior partner at the law firm. The pieces fall into place. Hartley, whose firm has been facilitating the operation, who probably thought himself untouchable behind attorney-client privilege and international connections. Something has spooked him enough to flip. What spooked him? She asks. The arrest today included someone he didn't expect. His son, Brendan Hartley, working as a contractor for a federal agency, was feeding information to the network. When we arrested him this afternoon, Jonathan realized we were closer than he thought. Family. It always comes down to family. Hartley was willing to facilitate espionage for profit, but watching his son face decades in federal prison changed his calculation. Are we dealing? That's being discussed at the highest levels. The intelligence he's offering, names of foreign handlers, methods of communication, other cities where similar operations are running. It might be worth immunity. What about the victims, the people whose lives were disrupted, whose information was sold? They'll have to settle for civil suits and the satisfaction of seeing the network dismantled. It's not enough, but it's how the system works. The bigger fish get deals while the smaller ones get crushed. Brenner will probably serve 5 to 10 years. Voss might get 8 to 12. Mendez, caught fleeing, could face 15. But Hartley, who facilitated it all from his corner office, might walk free. Subscribe now to follow this investigation to its conclusion. The truth needs witnesses. At 11 p.m., the law firm is raided. FBI agents carry out boxes of documents, computers, files that will take months to fully analyze. The overnight cleaning crew watches in shock as the prestigious firm is dismantled piece by piece. Marissa watches from the operations center as the raid unfolds. 3 more partners are arrested, along with 2 associates and a paralegal who handled the encrypted communications. The scope suggests the entire firm was built around this operation. That legitimate legal work was just cover for intelligence gathering. Tuesday morning brings new revelations. The conference call records reveal participants from Russian intelligence, Chinese state security, Iranian intelligence, and surprisingly, a criminal organization from Brazil that was trying to identify federal agents investigating drug cartels. They were selling to anyone, Crawford says, disgusted. Enemies, allies, criminals, whoever could pay. The task force has grown to include CIA, NSA, and military intelligence. What started as a parking lot harassment has become one of the largest counterintelligence operations in U.S. history. Marissa finds herself briefing people whose titles are classified, whose very existence is officially denied. But the personal cost continues. Her sister calls, crying, someone spray-painted "Fed snitch" on her car overnight. Her mother's house has been under constant surveillance by unknown vehicles. The federal protection is good, but not perfect, and the message is clear. They can reach her family. Chen approaches her during a break in briefings. We can relocate them. Temporary witness protection until this calms down. For how long? As long as necessary. Marissa thinks about her sister's students, her mother's church community, the lives that would be disrupted. All because she went shopping on a Saturday afternoon. Let me talk to them first. That evening, she has a video call with her family. They're together at Sarah's house in Atlanta, federal agents visible in the background. Her mother looks older, stressed in a way Marissa hasn't seen since her father's illness. We're okay with relocating, Sarah says before Marissa can even ask. The agents explained everything. This is bigger than just us. You shouldn't have to either, her mother interrupts. But you're doing it anyway, because it's right. We're family. We stand together. The relief is overwhelming. Within hours, her family will be moved to a secure location, given new temporary identities, protected while the investigation continues. Wednesday brings Jonathan Hartley's debrief. Marissa watches through video link as he lays out the entire operation. It started 5 years ago, a simple information for money exchange with a Russian contact he'd met through legitimate legal work. But it grew, became organized, profitable beyond imagination. We were making $3 million a month by the end, he says, no remorse in his voice. The local cops got their cut, usually $5,000 to $10,000 per significant stop. The foreign services paid 10 times that for actionable intelligence. How many federal employees were compromised? Thousands. We had files on over 10,000 across the country, active intelligence on about 3,000 who were considered high-value targets. Like Director Kane? She wasn't specifically targeted initially, but her shopping patterns suggested someone with routine access to sensitive information, regular schedule, predictable behavior, signs of someone with high-level clearance who'd grown comfortable. When Mendez identified her as being at the plaza Saturday, we flagged her as a priority target. The casual discussion of human beings as targets, commodities to be exploited, makes Marissa sick. But she forces herself to listen, to understand the mechanics of how they operated. Hartley reveals the foreign handlers, a Russian intelligence officer operating out of the Miami consulate, a Chinese state security agent posing as a trade representative, an Iranian working through a Middle Eastern business council. All people with diplomatic immunity who will likely be expelled but never prosecuted. There's something else, Hartley says near the end of his debrief. We weren't the only operation. There are at least 3 other networks we know of, running similar schemes in different regions. We competed sometimes, collaborated others. The federal employee database is being harvested systematically across the country. The implications are staggering. The entire federal workforce potentially compromised, their personal information available to the highest bidder. Security clearance investigations will need to be redone, backgrounds rechecked, vulnerabilities reassessed. Secretary Webb calls an emergency meeting. We're implementing FedShield immediately, mandatory security briefings for all federal employees, enhanced database protection, and random counter-surveillance checks. This can never happen again. But Marissa knows it will, in different forms, with different methods. The vulnerability isn't technical. It's human. People with access selling that access, people with power abusing that power, people with information treating it as commodity rather than responsibility. Thursday's 60 Minutes interview preview airs. Just a 2-minute segment, but it goes viral immediately. The image of a composed black woman calmly describing harassment by 6 police officers while maintaining dignity and professionalism resonates across social media. Our shopping while black trends globally, but with visibility comes backlash. The threats escalate. Not just texts now, but emails, social media messages, even physical mail to the federal building. Most are investigated and dismissed as cranks, but some are credible enough to require response. A militia group in North Florida posts her photo with crosshairs. A foreign intelligence service puts a bounty on additional information about her. A corrupt police union calls for retaliation against federal overreach. She's become a symbol, which means she's also become a target for everyone who opposes what she represents. Friday afternoon, a breakthrough. The NSA, working with international partners, identifies the source of the initial intelligence that put federal employees on watch lists. It's a contractor for the Office of Personnel Management, someone with access to security clearance databases, who is selling lists of employees sorted by clearance level, agency, and potential vulnerabilities. The contractor, Marcus Webb, no relation to the secretary, is arrested at his home in Virginia. His computer contains files on every federal employee with a security clearance, annotated with personal details that could be used for blackmail or recruitment. He was the source, Crawford confirms. Hartley's network was the distribution system, but Webb was providing the raw intelligence. He's been doing it for 7 years, made over $5 million selling his access. 7 years. Every federal employee hired or reviewed in 7 years potentially compromised. The security breach is unprecedented, will require a complete overhaul of how clearances are managed and protected. Saturday marks 1 week since the parking lot incident. Marissa stands in the operations center, looking at the wall of arrests. 47 people in custody, from beat cops to federal contractors to international lawyers. The network is dismantled, its operations exposed, its methods documented. But she knows this is just one network, one operation, one threat to the federal workforce. There are others, will always be others, probing for weaknesses, looking for access, willing to exploit those who serve their country. Chen approaches with final numbers. 312 federal employees in Florida confirmed compromised. Nationwide, we're looking at over 3,000. The intelligence services accessed information on approximately 40% of employees with top-secret clearances. What happens to them? Notification, debriefing, enhanced monitoring. Some will need to be relocated or reassigned. The security implications will take years to fully address. Marissa thinks about those 3,000 people. Their lives disrupted like hers, their families potentially threatened, their careers potentially derailed, all because someone decided their information was worth selling. Her phone buzzes with a text from Officer Huang. "Thank you for standing up." Not all of us knew how deep this went. Some of us just wanted to protect and serve. She doesn't respond, but she appreciates the sentiment. Huang has agreed to testify, to provide evidence against his fellow officers, despite the certainty it will end his law enforcement career. That takes courage. Sunday evening, the full 60-minute segment airs. 20 minutes of investigation, interviews, and revelations that shake the country. The parking lot footage, obtained through FOIA requests, shows the entire encounter. The casual aggression, the coordinated intimidation, the assumption that Marissa would fold under pressure. But the most powerful moment is her revelation, 75% through the segment, of her true position. Anderson Cooper asks about her decision not to immediately identify herself as a federal director. "I wanted to see how they treated someone they thought was powerless," she says directly to the camera. "And what I saw was a system designed to intimidate, document, and exploit citizens based on their race and their refusal to be intimidated. If I had shown my badge, they would have apologized and found another victim. That's not justice." She reaches into her jacket, pulls out her DHS identification, holds it up to the camera. "I'm Regional Director Marissa Kane, Department of Homeland Security, but on that Saturday, I was just a black woman shopping for a cookbook stand. The fact that my federal position would have changed their behavior proves that the system is broken." The image, her badge held steady, her expression calm but determined, becomes iconic. Within hours, it's everywhere, a symbol of authority confronting abuse, of dignity in the face of harassment. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Other federal employees come forward with their stories, hundreds of them, describing similar stops, similar harassment, similar intimidation. The pattern is undeniable, the scope massive. Monday morning brings congressional attention. 3 different committees announce investigations. The Attorney General announces a nationwide review of local law enforcement interactions with federal employees. The President himself comments, calling the situation an attack on the federal workforce and the security of our nation. But for Marissa, sitting in her secure office, the victory feels hollow. Yes, this network is dismantled. Yes, people are facing justice. Yes, reforms are being implemented. But she knows that somewhere, someone is already planning the next operation, the next exploitation, the next attack on those who serve. Her supervisor, Powell, enters with news. "The secretary wants to promote you. Senior Executive Service, running a new division focused on protecting federal employees from exploitation." It's a massive promotion, the kind that caps careers, but it also means living under constant security, being a permanent target, sacrificing any chance of a normal life. Can I think about it? Of course. But Marissa, you've become something more than just a director now. You're a symbol of federal employees fighting back. That carries weight, but also responsibility. That evening, she drives to West Shore Plaza. against the advice of her security detail, who follow in unmarked cars. She parks in the same spot where it all began, gets out, and walks to Williams-Sonoma. The cookbook stand is still there, on sale now, 20% off. She picks it up, runs her fingers over the smooth wood, thinks about how something so simple led to something so complex. "Ma'am?" A young black woman, an employee, approaches nervously. "Are you Director Kane?" Marissa nods. "Thank you. What you did, standing up to them, it matters. My brother's a federal employee, got stopped 3 times last year. Now he knows it wasn't random, wasn't his fault. This is why she'll accept the promotion, why she'll live with the security, why she'll sacrifice normal. Because there are thousands of federal employees who need protection, who deserve to shop and drive and exist without fear of exploitation." She buys the cookbook stand, the same one she came for 9 days ago. The receipt timestamps at 2:14 p.m., exactly the same time as the week before. But everything else has changed. As she walks back to her car, she notices Officer Huang in civilian clothes, sitting on a bench near the parking lot. He stands as she approaches, uncertain. "Director Kane, I wanted to apologize for not speaking up sooner, for not stopping it when I could have." "You spoke up when it mattered most. That counts for something." "I've been fired. Technically resigned, but really fired. No department will hire me now." "What will you do?" "FBI says they might have a position for me as an analyst, helping identify other networks like this one. Turns out my documentation skills are useful." She almost smiles at that. Huang, the note-taker, becoming an analyst hunting corruption. There's justice in that. "Good luck, Mr. Huang. Derek and Director, thank you for not just flashing your badge that day. If you had, none of this would have come out." She nods and continues to her car. As she drives away, she sees the parking lot differently now. Not as a crime scene, but as a battlefield where she won by refusing to fight on their terms. Tuesday brings the final count. 63 arrests nationwide, 4 networks dismantled, approximately 8,000 federal employees identified as compromised. The intelligence community is reeling, the federal workforce shaken, local law enforcement under unprecedented scrutiny. But there are also victories. New procedures for protecting federal employee information, mandatory training on recognizing exploitation attempts, enhanced penalties for targeting federal workers, and most importantly, awareness that the threat exists, that vigilance is required. Wednesday, Marissa accepts the promotion. She'll lead the new Office of Federal Workforce Protection, reporting directly to the Secretary, with a mandate to prevent future exploitation of federal employees. It's a position that didn't exist 2 weeks ago, created specifically because of what she uncovered. Her first act is to establish a hotline for federal employees to report suspicious encounters with law enforcement. Within hours, 300 calls come in, each one a potential thread in another network, another operation, another threat. Thursday, the trials begin. Brenner pleads guilty, hoping for leniency. He gets 7 years, eligible for parole in 5. Voss fights, maintains her innocence, claims she was just following orders. The jury doesn't buy it, guilty on all counts, 12 years. Mendez, caught fleeing, gets 15 years as an example to others who might run. The federal contractors face worse. Marcus Webb, who sold the initial intelligence, gets 25 years for espionage. Deputy Marshal Fitch gets 20 for betraying his oath. The lawyers from Hartley's firm face various sentences, from probation for minor players to 15 years for key facilitators. Jonathan Hartley himself, protected by his immunity deal, enters witness protection. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, wondering if the foreign intelligence services he betrayed will come collecting. Friday marks 2 weeks since the parking lot incident. Marissa sits in her new office, larger, more secure, with a view of downtown Tampa that should be inspiring, but just reminds her of the responsibility she's accepted. Her family is safe, relocated temporarily but adjusting. The threats have decreased but not disappeared. Her life has found a new normal that isn't normal at all, but might be sustainable. A knock at her door. Crawford enters with a final report. "We found one more thing in the encrypted files. A list of federal employees marked as priority targets for recruitment or exploitation. Your name was added Friday night before the Saturday incident. So they did know who I was." "No. You were identified as federal employee, high-level clearance suspected, vulnerable to pressure due to racial profiling history. They thought you'd been stopped before, thought you might be turned against the system that failed to protect you." The irony is perfect. They targeted her thinking she was vulnerable, not knowing she was exactly the opposite, someone positioned to expose their entire operation. There's more. The list has 300 names of federal employees they considered prime targets. We're notifying all of them, offering protection and support. 300 people who were being hunted, evaluated, potentially exploited. 300 careers, families, lives that could have been destroyed for profit. As Crawford leaves, Marissa opens her laptop and begins writing her first directive as head of the new office. It's simple, direct. Every federal employee has the right to live, work, and exist without fear of exploitation. This office will ensure that right is protected, that those who serve their country are not targeted for that service. We will be vigilant, we will be thorough, and we will not allow what happened to thousands of employees to happen again. She thinks about adding more, about describing the threat, the methods, the urgency. But simple is better. The message is clear. Federal employees are protected now, watched over by someone who understands the threat personally. Her phone buzzes with a text from her sister. Saw the news about your promotion. Dad would be so proud. Stay safe. She will stay safe as someone in her position can be. But more importantly, she'll keep others safe, prevent other federal employees from experiencing what she did, protect those who protect the country. Outside her window, Tampa continues its daily rhythm. Traffic flows, people work, life proceeds. Most will never know how close the federal workforce came to being systematically compromised, how a shopping trip exposed an espionage network, how one woman's refusal to be intimidated changed everything. But Marissa knows, and that knowledge carries weight. She's not just a director now, she's a guardian, a protector, a symbol of resistance against those who would exploit public servants. The cookbook stand sits on her desk, still in its Williams-Sonoma bag, receipt attached. She'll take it home eventually, use it in her kitchen once life settles into whatever new normal emerges. But for now, it serves as a reminder. Sometimes the smallest actions trigger the biggest changes. Sometimes buying a kitchen item can expose international espionage. Sometimes standing your ground in a parking lot can protect thousands of others. Her computer pings with an encrypted message from the FBI. Another network has been identified, this one operating out of Dallas, targeting federal employees at the regional EPA office. The work continues, will always continue, as long as there are those willing to exploit public servants for profit. She forwards the message to her new team, adds her own note. We have work to do. The parking lot at West Shore Plaza is quiet now. Just another suburban shopping center where people buy overpriced kitchen supplies and designer clothes. The security cameras still record, but there are no more coordinated stops, no more targeting of federal employees, no more intelligence gathering disguised as law enforcement. At least not there. Not anymore. But somewhere else, in another city, another parking lot, another federal employee is being watched, evaluated, potentially targeted. That's why Marissa Kane accepted this position, why she'll spend the rest of her career fighting this threat, why she'll never regret that Saturday afternoon when she just wanted to buy a cookbook stand. The second patrol car blocking her exit that day thought they had trapped her. Instead, they had trapped themselves, exposed their network, triggered their own downfall. They thought they were hunting. They didn't realize they had become the hunted. And in the end, that reversal, that moment when the powerless becomes powerful, when the victim becomes the victor, when the targeted becomes the protector, that's the real justice. Not perfect, not complete, but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to change things. Enough to ensure that the next federal employee who goes shopping on a Saturday afternoon can do so in peace, protected by systems that were strengthened because one woman refused to be intimidated, refused to flash her badge, refused to let injustice go unchallenged. The cookbook stand will go home tonight. Tomorrow there will be new threats to address, new networks to uncover, new protections to implement. But tonight Marissa Kane will cook dinner using her new kitchen tool, remembering that sometimes the smallest purchases lead to the biggest changes. And somewhere, 47 other people who were harassed at West Shore Plaza are living their lives more freely, knowing that someone stood up, someone fought back, someone ensured that what happened to them will not happen to others. That's not perfect justice, but it's enough. For now, it's enough.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. If you found the content helpful, please remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming episodes. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. We are always here to listen.